What the heck is going on? Well, let's bring the meeting to order. I think first we'll do the public comment as usual and the minutes from the previous meeting as usual, and then if no one objects, we'll put on Ted Cade. Okay, public comment.
Sure.
Yes.
I would like to comment on a couple things regarding the special town meeting that we had. The first one being my apology. Apparently there was some confusion as to my notification that that I was going to be recording. That will not happen again.
Hello, meeting has started.
So I do apologize that that wasn't notified correctly, and in the future I will do that. The second thing I want to do is, you know full well that I've been for the past 6 months trying to provide an opportunity for time to say the Pledge of Allegiance at open meeting, specifically town meeting. There are a number of reasons for that. One of the primary being that this is me right after I got my head shaved and I joined the Army. Okay, this is my grandfather who was in World War II. Okay, I took an oath to defend the Constitution from enemies, both foreign and domestic, and I take that seriously. So this flag right here means so much to me that I will put friendships on the line over it. Unfortunately, when things go in a way that I don't see as reasonable, and that brings me to, okay, this is another reason. Okay, this is Megan Persico on the USS George H.W. Bush, who was in the line of fire pretty much in the war that we have on terrorism. If we are not supporting our troops, if we are not supporting our democracy in town meeting, then I don't understand what we're doing here, okay? I am filing a complaint against the moderator, and in this complaint I will say the moderator did attempt to intimidate me from using my free speech rights prior to the beginning of town meeting by yelling "Bill, no," as I was beginning to ask people to join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Excuse me, Bill. You're kind of talking to us and there's nothing we can really do.
I don't believe that's true. Who am I supposed to talk to about this? Who am I supposed to file this complaint
The
with?
moderator was elected.
Who am I supposed to file my open meeting complaint with?
Open meeting complaints initially are filed with the committee, board, or department that violated them, and they have a certain number of days to respond, and then it gets kicked to the Attorney General if the complaint is not.
Alright, so the violator is the person that I should submit this to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Alright, so then I will actually say that I had asked this board in the past to do their best and try and clear it up, and I know that you, Don, had made an attempt to do that. I also know that I got a call from Rosa Calcari on Tuesday saying that that I was gonna not be impeded from attempting to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's not what I said.
What
I
did
said
you say?
that when I spoke with the moderator, I had a meeting with her because as a new town clerk, she needed to go over things with me for the town meeting because it was my first one. And she said that as long as it was done before.
This seems like something that could go on ad nauseum. I suggest it be agendized for a future meeting, and when the person who's being complained
If
against.
there's anything that he needs to do, it should be agendized for a future meeting, but he should file his complaint with the moderator.
Okay.
And see what happens.
Sure. I'll also give a copy of this to the board, just so that you know where I stand, and where your citizens stand. We do not like being told no when we go to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. I'll ask everybody else who has a matter for the public comment to try to keep it to three minutes because we have a crowd here. Welcome, crowd.
That's relevant to the previous discussion.
Okay.
Would you like a cup?
I got one.
Anybody else?
It is indeed.
I got a cup.
But I don't think she
Not
is
urgent.
asking us to do anything tonight other than what we have just done.
That's
So
correct.
we can read this at our leisure, I think.
So let's do the same.
Yeah, it's two
We
copies.
have one.
Yes, I don't think there's anything on this that needs our immediate attention, so. Other public comment? Oh, wow. We're going to do approval of the minutes and then you're on. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And I'll second, I don't know. Patricia, are you here? Patricia, are you here?
I'm here, but I'm having trouble hearing you.
We're having trouble hearing you also.
May I suggest whoever's speaking hold the phone, pass it around like a talking stick?
Which, her voice is very faint, can hardly hear.
Well, Patricia, what we'll do is we'll pass the phone around speaker to speaker, so you can hear me all right, can't you? Patricia? Uh-huh.
Bring it closer.
Patricia, can you hear me?
I think we've lost the connection,
There's a motion,
and it's been seconded.
right, so is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Patricia? She's not here. I think we have to say she's not here. Okay, we dealt with the minutes and therefore Ted, you're on.
I'll make this extraordinarily brief, if I can. Regarding the Kinder Morgan letter that the select board was going to write, I was hoping you might delay that when we have an all-board meeting to go over all of the matters that might impact the town. I've ordered maps, this is one of them, sort of like this, so that we can look at the lay of the pipe as it goes across various properties and various sensitive areas in town. And this would include conservation, restricted land, town forest, the state forest preserve area, vernal pools, unique habitats, the shade tree law, the scenic road law, and these zoning bylaws which require a special permit for a commercial application. I assume we'd also recommend the conservation option, which would be the low demand option, and recommend possibly no export, which is a way to assure that we would have low priced gas. And we note that the reserves have been downgraded by the National Geologic Survey, and other matters that may come up. So if that's okay,
Fine with me.
and we'll
I
set a date
recommended
as
that.
soon as the maps come back from the regional planning agency.
The other matters that may come back are largely from me, I think, and will involve more general issues. Such as what is peak Marcellus, and can they really
Yeah, that's what I was talking about,
deal with it?
the fact that the reduced reserves.
Right.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes,
I'm having so much trouble hearing
I can hear you. I assume that what you were saying essentially is that you're leaving the meeting, correct?
That's right, and I apologize.
No apologies needed. Welcome back.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
And
Goodbye.
I'll coordinate with David, when the time is convenient for the select board and the other town boards that would be involved, such as the energy conservation folks and the conservation commission and the tree board. And this town forest committee, because it's gonna go across the forest. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
I want to
Thank you
raise,
folks for letting me go out of order.
Ted, before you leave, I want to raise at a future meeting the distinction that you made. The distinction that you made when we had our discussion on this between the board, the select board, and the town.
Okay,
You understand?
take care.
Okay, chapter 268, section 20D, exemptions. Anything? David says no. Green communities. I'll let you speak up.
Okay,
Tell me what we have to do.
tonight we need a signed document from the select board saying that they approve of the energy reduction plan that the Buildings and Energy Committee has been putting together to satisfy criteria 3 of the Green Communities application. So criteria 3 says that over the next 5 years, you can throw in a 6. Actually, in 5 years, starting from the baseline year that we have data for, that we will reduce our townwide energy use by 20%, or at least we'll try our best to. And so in that plan, we've documented the measures for each building, and after consulting with our highway superintendent and police chief and fire chief, because vehicle use, fuel use, is in that 20% reduction, we've put a plan together that gets us to 20%. So, David had forwarded you the narrative of that plan, the 1 to 3 year plan, the 4 to 5 year plan, and then the beyond 5 year plan, if we can think that far ahead.
And we have with us the energy reduction plan, whole thing, or 5 pages of it or something.
Yeah, it's actually 8 pages, including the appendices and the resource table and the MMBTU conversion charts, and so on. And then there's supporting documents, which are very important. One is the baseline energy table, which we can't, I mean, those are the numbers. That's the energy we used in fiscal year 2013. But then, based on that, we come up with a plan to reduce those numbers in each building as we can. So really generally, the Buildings and Energy Committee sees the value in paying attention to weatherization first before we do any heating system analysis or change outs, because those are the really expensive things. So in the library, for example, which isn't bad, but given the test that Steve and I did with a blower door, and given the walkthrough by Energia, an insulation company out of Springfield, and looking at what we saw with the infrared camera, there's room for improvement. So we would like to spend, of the estimated $135,000 or $140,000, if we're awarded, if they like our plan and all the other criteria are in place, as of right siding, expedited permitting, the stretch code passed at town meeting, and the vehicle fuel reduction policy, along with the energy reduction plan, if they accept that application and designate us a green community, in January we'll have to come up with a more specific plan to spend their money. And they'll start giving us money around that time. So,
I grilled you like a cross-examining lawyer over the phone about, is this plan written in stone? And you explained to me in lots of detail that it is not and that we can change it. And consequently, even though it's complex, we can approve it tonight.
approve it.
Right.
You can.
The vote to authorize Warwick Green Communities application is self-explanatory. There's also a vote to adopt policies for vehicle replacement. Have we ever seen those policies?
Just tonight, I wrote them about 10 minutes ago. You have them before you. That piece is very difficult for a town like Warwick. Every one of our vehicles is exempt. Fire trucks, highway vehicles, police cruisers. So the policy I'm suggesting is that we purchase efficient replacement vehicles for the exempt vehicles as they become commercially available. Currently not. There's no hybrid police cars. There's no fantastically energy efficient 40,000-pound dump trucks to plow snow with. But secondly, that we buy or accept gifts only of compliant vehicles should the town in the future acquire any non-exempt vehicles. Currently, every one of our vehicles is exempt. And attached to this plan, you've got our inventory, which shows the type of vehicle, the model year, the drive type, year acquired, whether it's exempt. I think there's one mistake. I think the Tahoe Cruiser is probably under 8,500 pounds. Otherwise, I think it's a good document. I'll make that change. And then because we are a town with all exempt vehicles, we have to give them an alternate compliance policy. And this could range from saying we're going to burn biodiesel in our diesel trucks. I didn't want to write that in at this point. Biodiesel may be a really bad idea from an environmental standpoint. It takes about 95 inputs of petroleum energy to make 100 units of fuel. So, and then there's this whole splash and dash thing, and it's just, so that didn't seem too good. We could have a loaner bike program so town employees could move from building to building on bicycles. We could encourage employee ride sharing and carpooling. Really just not made for our scale. So what I came up with, which is on their list, are we will install bicycle racks at municipal buildings. It's already done at the school, it's already done at the library. We could sure use a bicycle rack at the town hall and a few other places, police station, fire station. And we'll provide preferred parking for municipal employees driving hybrid vehicles. I don't know of any at this point, but we'll put up that sign and we'll have a preferred parking place for people driving hybrids or all-electric vehicles that are town employees. And these will meet the threshold, and they're not as onerous as some of the things. We could put a electric vehicle charging station up, but they're not cheap. I don't think anybody's ever built one for less than $5 grand. So this is my suggestion, that we adopt this policy.
Jan has a strange look on her face, which says perhaps she has a little bit of misjudgment. What's up?
I think what he's written fits Warwick, and I think some of the things he was saying, before he got to the part where he said these things don't really fit Warwick, I thought he was putting all of those in the proposal. So I believe.
To your knowledge, will this fit the requirements for the application? Yes, she said.
Yes.
You can use them.
Okay, so is there a motion to adopt the policies for vehicle replacement and the energy use reduction plan.
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, could we have a vote to, as well, to apply for green community designation? It's sort of implicit in everything we've done, but I'd like to have it hard and fast in the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so
I assume, by the way, the secretary has noted that, that Patricia is now absent.
Since 6:10.
Nick, I need you to sign these 2 letters which say what you just did. And Don, I need you to sign these 2 affidavits. It says that he can sign these 2 letters because you voted to.
Okay. Yep. Is there anything in the back here I need to see?
No, that's it.
Okay.
All its glory. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on green communities? Hearing nothing, on to the highway department.
Mr.
Here's a
Chairman?
report. Is there a report from the highway department?
No, I got an email and I forwarded it to you today that Larry was unable to make it because of a prior commitment that he forgot about. So what I suggest is we put everything forward except 2 items. One is the reimbursement for our recent paving project under Mass Works, and also for our pavement, let's see the amount on this. Yeah, this one's our pothole grant.
Okay.
And it's been countersigned by the town accountant, and it needs 2 select board signatures on the next page.
The pothole grant report is that we've just been given.
No, we got the money and we spent the money by the September 30th deadline, and now we're filing our paperwork for reimbursement by the October 30th deadline. And this piece, I don't see a place for the select board to sign. This is $225,000 for the Mass Works invoice.
$225.
Probably want the whole number.
Are we supposed to sign the first page?
You know what? I do believe
Just
you're right.
a second.
I think you signed both. Good catch. You said every time.
So there's 2 separate amounts.
Yes. I don't know why you don't have signature lines on that larger amount, but it could be that it's a progress payment and they just want the paperwork before we're done or something. I don't know.
Okay. And here, I don't see a signature spot. Under Delaney, I guess. Yeah.
You can sign it. What the heck?
Well, I don't need to sign it. Okay.
So then the other matter, Mr. Chairman, is that the accountant noted, and I agree, that our part-time employee Brian Miner has been working full-time and is eligible for benefits. It's not really a question for the select board, but I've spoken with Larry. There's not an intention to change the winter practice that we had, which is as needed, but given the hours he's working, he ought to have the same benefits as the other employees. And I mean, he's entitled to them by right, and what I mean is clothing allowance, a paid vacation day, etc. So that's just federal law, but I wanted to bring you up to date on that. The rest of the stuff for the highway department, I think we should wait till Larry's here.
I agree.
And one of the items which is on the agenda at my request is, he's been here about 6 months, doing a good job by my lights, and we didn't give him all the money we were paying Tim, so we have something to step him up, and so that should be on the next agenda.
That is whom and what?
That is Larry Delaney, Highway Superintendent.
Okay. I'm not sure that everything has been resolved about Brian Minor, but
It's really not up to
he
us.
says that there's nothing that we have to do or can do.
Yeah.
So let's leave it be for the minute.
Yeah.
We might get back to it. Building department appointments. Deputy Building Inspector Roland Jean, and appointment of new plumbing inspector.
Phil Delore.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I did speak with David about the possibility of having the town of Warwick appoint an assistant building inspector, which is actually called a local building inspector in state building inspector terminology. But the reason being, first was that Brian Gale is our current alternate building inspector, and he's going to be retiring. And he's frequently on vacation when I'm on vacation, as has happened the last couple of years. He hasn't often been available, and I think he will not be more available as we go forward. So, one, the town's required to have an alternate building inspector. And the second is I'm getting towards retirement age, although I don't have a specific plan in mind yet. But the thought was that if we have a person that's familiar with town that are available, and appointed as an assistant building inspector, that person could cover for me when I'm on vacation and or begin to transition into the town's building inspector role. So Roland Jean, this is Mr. Jean right here.
Hi.
Has been appointed in both the other towns that I'm the building inspector, in New Salem and in Warwick. He is fully qualified as a local building inspector by the Board of Building Regulations and Standards, and he's current with his certification credit. So I just think in the interest of having an alternate building inspector and in future transitions or just becoming familiar with the other town boards and procedures, that it would be a good idea for the town to have a second person in this role as an alternate and as an assistant building inspector.
And as a quote local building inspector unquote, I assume
That is
we need state.
That's the title that
Yeah.
That's it. That's the certification that's assigned by the state.
Uh-huh.
Is local building inspector. So anyone that's certified and serving in a building department, unless you have the commissioner status or certification, which I have, in which the head of the department has to have.
Thanks. Did I hear right that you're from Warwick?
No, I live in New Salem.
Ah.
He did say Warwick, meant Wendell. Yeah, when you tried to say Wendell, you said Warwick.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be from Warwick. It just came out.
Could you pretend you're from Warwick and not feel guilty about it?
Absolutely. No, not a problem.
What can you say about yourself? Understand that we haven't always done interviews with people, but I think it's a good idea. And I guess the rest of the board isn't objecting.
Except, what are your feelings about being able to handle increased requests to inspect due to the stretch code we just passed?
I don't anticipate any problem with that.
Okay.
I don't really anticipate any increase in the inspections, to be honest with you.
Really? Okay. 'Cause
Actually, turns out Wendell and New Salem are each green communities as well. So we're all becoming more familiar with it. I think the majority of towns in the state, I believe now, are green communities. And in fact, as you probably know now, when a town becomes a green community, persons are required to have a HERS inspector involved in their building planning, involved in their building inspection. So it actually gives us another person who's more expert actually in conservation than we are, or maybe equal. But it certainly doesn't increase our workload, the green community aspect.
What can you tell me about your background, briefly?
I've been self-employed since 1997 in building houses and remodeling and anything that needs to be done, really. And I'd like to transition into a building inspector's role. So that's the reason that I'm trying to, to get into this. And coming from the construction background, I know what it's like when you need an inspection, and lots of times there's a check hanging in the balance coming my way, and if you can't get an inspection because the building inspector's gone on vacation, it's a real problem sometimes. So I think in this instance, it would be a good idea for you guys to do something like this.
I was in a town which had a very similar problem for years, and I know what you mean.
Yeah. It puts people in a tough situation sometimes, that's all.
Yeah,
David?
and to be available to take care of that promptly is important.
Sure.
David?
I just wanted to not gloss over the other half of the job that's probably less fun than inspecting buildings. Any comments on zoning enforcement?
Oh, yes.
Think you love it?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, it is.
No, I don't think I have any comments on zoning enforcement. I mean, as part of the job, it has to be done. To be honest with you, I haven't seen Warwick's zoning laws, so.
If you leave me your email address,
I
I'll
assume
send
you'll
you
get
a
up to
copy.
speed on them quickly.
Oh yeah.
And then the other question I have is Phil, you have the title, will your is your local inspector fully qualified to move into your spot in the future, or is there more education that needs to occur?
The basic requirement, the ongoing requirement is a building inspector must hold a commissioner's certification to be the head of the department or the only building inspector employed by the town. However, you can hire a local inspector or someone that can have an 18-month period to complete the rest of the tests that are required for the commissioner's level. So, and that's something that Roland was working on and hasn't achieved that yet. But.
Okay, Roland, we can't make any promises, but hope you work toward that.
I could be hired today as your building inspector,
I understand.
but I would have 18 months to gain the certification. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I am certified to be hired today.
Okay.
Is there a budget problem here?
Boy, that's an open question.
Well, what we discussed for the balance of this year is there's an amount of money, I don't want to quote it from memory, for an expense line which our inspector rarely taps. And that could be allocated over to a stipend for the local building inspector.
I had suggested $1,000 a year as a retainer for Roland to fill in as the alternate and other things we've talked about. And that's prorated, so now it's October, so for this year it would be, you know, a portion of that 1,000. So, and that's,
So it's covered by something that the
Well, almost. I
that
mean,
the town did.
if the duties amount to too much, maybe I can lean on Phil a little bit and slide a little of his money to make up any difference. My memory has around 600 in the expense line.
those are two different points, so let's go back to the first one. But I think we do have approximately, I can't remember now that you mentioned it, but it's $600 to $1,000 in the expense line item, and so we have a fair amount of money there. Again, I don't know, David and I just talked this over, and so we're presenting to the board to get your approval. I assume that funding issues would be resolved as we went further along with this. But. So it's,
Okay.
again, for this year, I'm trying to think, October is the 10th month, so we're only talking 8 out of the 2,000, so $600. I think $666 for the balance of this fiscal year is all we're talking.
And you're saying you can take it out of your expense line?
Yeah, expense line he did it.
If I have it in this, yes. I think I'm happy to work with the town anyway. I don't use the expenses that often. I mean, I don't have that much expense really. I don't charge for mileage, and stamps are occasional. It's not a lot of money.
Okay.
So I don't have exact numbers. I'm not trying to be evasive here. I just don't know the exact.
And in case that doesn't cover, are you willing to take a few days off and let him sub for you to cover the rest? David was suggesting that, I think.
That's what he was suggesting. We can work it out. I'm sure we're not trying, I wanna know the numbers they're talking about before I commit to something here, so,
Well, it couldn't be more than 1,000,
yeah.
and I think your salary line's about 9.
Okay, well, I'm going to assume that it'll work out some way within the budget, and that we'll all have to renegotiate if there's a problem with the budget.
So for the balance of this year, I'm agreeable that we'll work it out within the budget and that we'll consider maybe a separate line item for the next year, next fiscal year.
Good.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I move that we appoint Roland Jean Jr. as Deputy Building Inspector.
Second.
Can we just clarify and term it the acceptable term?
Local.
It's a local building inspector as opposed to deputy. Deputy is, I'm not sure where that is, but it's not the building inspector's role.
Isn't there that to local building inspector?
Okay, so he's going to be,
You second that?
yes. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, done. Congratulations, or condolences, or something.
At 6:30 we should,
Uh,
at 6:30 we should do the.
Execution and authorization of, oh, wait a minute, we have appointment of a new plumbing
No,
director,
no,
plumbing inspector.
the hearing.
We're at 6:30?
We're past it.
We're past.
We're past.
Could I briefly just give you the resume that I have for a new plumbing inspector, because town's without a plumbing inspector at present.
Okay.
I have a resume from a Casey Bashaw. He's the plumbing and gas inspector in Orange, and he's highly recommended by Brian Gale, who is the commissioner in Orange, as you know. And he made a very nice resume. I can leave it with you if you like, but he's highly qualified. He's a master licensed plumber and gas fitter. He's a certified gas. I don't know all the terminology, frankly, but it's a gas tight certified. He's got a list of several qualifications and places where he's worked. But we do need to get, the town needs to have a gas inspector, plumbing and gas inspector appointed. I could ask him to come to another meeting if you like.
I think you need to ask him to come to another meeting.
What do we do in the interim, Phil?
Because I've told the board that I'm going to vote against appointments where we haven't interviewed.
Okay.
And that would mean we'd have only one vote out of 3, so.
In the interim, Mr. Bashaw would be willing, I'm sure, to act as an alternate. And I'm only talking a couple of weeks, I'm assuming, before you go to the next step. But
Mr. Chairman,
David?
I would really urge the board to make an interim appointment. Probably, I don't know this, I'm making it up, but probably a homeowner or a contractor has constructive approval for our failure to have a plumbing inspector, but that doesn't seem like a good way to fly to me. Constructive approval means the guy doesn't show up on time, I get to close it up and move on. That's no inspection. So I would urge the board to at least make an interim appointment.
Can he be here in 2 weeks?
yes, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, well,
He offered to come tonight, I just
let's
didn't know
make
if you
an
were there.
interim appointment that is only good for 2 weeks.
Thank you.
And he'll be here in 2 weeks.
Very good, thank you very much.
Is there a motion?
Move to appoint
Casey Bashaw.
Casey Bashaw as interim plumbing inspector for 2 weeks, effective today.
And pending his interview in 2 weeks.
Great, thank you.
Second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Execution and authorization of,
No.
Poll here.
we're,
Hold the fire.
yes, we're doing a poll line hearing. Is somebody here for the poll line hearing?
Yeah, my name is David Pash. I'm representative for Verizon. We're looking to install a new mid-span pole at the intersection of Gale Road and Hastings Heights Road and Main Street. It's a midspan pole to correct low clearances over the road.
That's actually orange.
Well,
It's in Warwick.
it's in Warwick. It's the town line is right on the edge of the road, so the pole's technically in Warwick, but it's right on that town line. We have a project we're working between Warwick and Orange, and we've got petition for both. So.
Okay. Is there anybody here from the neighborhood or otherwise who wants to speak on it? Yes.
Speaking as the public safety chief, we have issues with Verizon sneaking into town doing these pole replacements. They've been shut down several times for not having a detail officer or a flagman or signs up. They sneak back into town the next day. A bunch of the poles that are on Hastings Heights Road from the Orange Town line to Nylanders were replaced. They were thrown out of town twice. They refused to get a detail or supply flagmen. I don't care what they do. I would request that for this, if the town does grant this poll hearing request, and further, I would request a future request. Verizon contacts the police department and either requests or supplies their own flag people for these projects that they're doing. It's gotten out of hand. So, and it's not just Verizon. It's, you know, New England Power does it, or what is it, National Grid does it, and so do the tree companies. So I don't care what they do, but they need to notify us, and they can either hire a detail officer to supply their own flagman. We have since December 2012, we have policy and procedure that's been put in place for entities that encroach on public ways. I'll be happy to supply, again, Verizon and anybody else that wants those policies and procedures.
So if they are going to be required to give notice, is there an amount of time that the police department needs?
No, they can call us. They need to either supply, consistent with public safety, they need to either hire a detail officer, which we can do, or they can supply a flag person. That flag person, according to our policies and procedures, has one job, and that's to do traffic. He cannot be assisting the guy in the bucket. He cannot be fetching tools. He is a flag person. So they can do it either way. I don't care how they do it. Or if we determine that there isn't a need for it, we can close the road safely. It's on a back road that, you know, we have one car a day, and they can safely just, you know, dispense with stuff like that. That's going to be a case-by-case basis. It's gotten to the point where the construction manager at Verizon, as well as National Grid and some of the other companies that come in town, decide on their own that we don't need a detail officer here, or we don't need to supply a flag. So I would respectfully request that for this poll hearing and for any other future poll hearings, that be a stipulation before granting.
Let me suggest that you're going to require notice in writing, so that...
No, the guy can call me just like he does now when he wants a detail officer, that's fine. You know, we're pretty laid back and pretty, you know, but, you know, when my officers or when people call me up and say I couldn't get through, or there's nobody directing traffic, you know, I had to wait, you know, the guy wasn't watching it, it's not acceptable. So.
All right, David, you had your hand up?
Just two things. One, a comment. It's the police chief can make a decision whether they require a police officer detail or a flagman. It's a generous move to do the latter and allow the company to. But when we do highway projects on a busy road, we tie up 2 of our 4 guys dealing with traffic unless we bring a detail officer on. And then the second point I want to make is that this is a continuation of a poll hearing which was scheduled for 15 days ago, and the meeting was canceled, and the agenda brought forward. I contacted the only abutter, Mrs. Coffin, and spoke with her, and she has no issues with the issuance of this permit.
Thank you. I'd welcome a motion which is to approve the placement of the pole subject to the condition that the police department be contacted prior to the placement to discuss the need for a police officer's presence, and the police department at its discretion will determine when it's needed.
So moved.
I'm sorry?
So moved.
Yeah, I didn't get it all, I can tell you that much. I got the gist, but not every word. I'm up to prior to placing of pole. Approve the placement of the pole subject to provision of the police department be contacted prior to the placing of the pole. It's kind of self-explanatory with what the chief had said. It's already in the minutes of what he wanted, but.
Okay, to determine the need for the presence of a police officer at the police department's discretion.
Okay.
And it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Is there a vote?
All in favor?
I'm sorry?
All in favor?
And so am I. Okay.
Aye.
Where are we here? Okay, there's nothing else from the highway department to take it.
Our superintendent's not here.
No, I don't think so.
Suggestion, perhaps David could draft a letter to Verizon, National Grid, and anybody else that seems to come through here, and just tell them that they need to contact Lisa.
They have those, I've given them to Pete and Bud and
Okay.
the other Pete, and, I mean, they have our policy and procedure.
We'll just shut them down if they don't
Okay,
play right.
okay.
These are the documents that need to be signed. Last time I had to chase you down, so. this is
Okay,
wrong.
these are the documents from the
Verizon's petition.
next line item, the execution and authorization of contracts.
No, that's what you just did.
No, now you gotta sign what you just voted. Those are the papers that Rosa needs a signature on, having to do with the poll.
I learned that the hard way. I needed to bring them with me or something. So this time around, we're chasing down the houses.
Okay, who's the
You need
clerk
to
of
show 'em.
selectmen? Is that you, or is
No,
that one of
that's
us?
gone.
Clerk of Selectmen. And then I think it's on the.
And then we both sign the next
There's
page.
one for the town, one for National Grid, and one for Verizon.
Backs. So. I don't know why all these places do that. You need a vote of authorization and then the select board signs.
Okay,
Having 77 signatures doesn't really matter legally, but.
onward. That is
That's the poll.
that's the poll authorization.
That goes back to
And-
Rosa.
There's three of them though. There's one for the town, one for Verizon, one for the National Grid.
Oh boy, keep signing.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
three altogether.
Keep signing.
And,
Yep.
we're not really in the execution and authorization of contracts and warrants. While we're signing, is there
Almost there.
anything you can, inform us of that you're ready to?
The next contract is the EMPG contract, that's emergency management preparedness. Preparedness grant, yeah. So, we traditionally use these, to purchase radio communication gear, and that is the request again this year. Those go back to Rosa. So this grant is $8,500.
Really?
And I believe it's 2 years. worth of money. And we've been, over time, we've been catching up. I think we're almost up to the current federal fiscal year. Don't ask me what that is, because I don't understand that stuff. This requires 3 signatures of the chair. First one is right there. The only provision they've made in that is I had to swear with blood that we would buy digital radios that were narrow band. Basically, don't buy any stuff that's becoming quickly antiques. I want more spectral efficiency. And this is for the state. This is for on behalf of the town.
Okay. I don't really like the sign things for the town that have such a lot of fine print.
This is a standard state contract. You either kiss $8,500 goodbye or sign it. They don't like you to change the contract.
Oh my God.
But I can get you a copy if you want to read it.
Never mind, I
This,
don't.
this one gets signed by Rosa, and this one gets signed by you, Nick, in her presence as town clerk. So Rosa, you will watch him sign that, and then you'll get to clerk stamp that 2 times. All right, so Rosa, I'm going to pass that to you
Seal thing?
for your signature twice and a seal. All right, this next one looks just the same, except it's $45 shy of $4,000. We know this
And
as...
this is which item?
This is the next item up, the MEMA Vermont Yankee Grant. We know it as
Okay.
Vermont Yankee. They used to grant us money directly by virtue of us being in the 10-mile zone. And then over the recent history, they've passed the money through MEMA, probably so they get some kind of brownie points with somebody somewhere. This is just shy of $4,000, and it's same drill. Sign here.
So that was MEMA Vermont Yankee for 4,000?
No, 3955.
And what does it do?
What does it
I was
do?
signing that, so. Not great at multitasking.
Who's in charge, who's disperses that money? Once the town gets it, isn't it?
Do I sign this signature of authorized